fairies. I was so excited to see that you are still here this morning. Oh my goodness. You truly are magical. It appears that things that I have not seen in years have started to collect and gather around the fairies. I also see that you've helped yourself, I'm so glad, to some scissors and scrap papers. I'm so happy that you're making yourself at home. Thank you, Julia, the fairy godmother. They like it here. They like it here. Hi, it's Karen Brady from Black Swan Journals. And today we are going to work in our self-care journal. And I thought we'd do something more fun, more light, more easygoing than the last video. Well, not the last video about the fairies, the fairy unboxing, but the last video in this series on this part so far is on decorating. And today I'm going to do something in my journal that will help me when I flip through my self-care journal and use my self-care journal. And when I come upon this page, it'll help me prompt myself to be more feminine, which is something I would like for myself. So in no way is this a judgment on what anyone should be. This is just something that is for myself and that I would like for me. So for years, I have lost my femininity in a lot of ways. And the reason for that is my job. And my job is outside. I used to own a flower shop for about 10 years, and I sold that and wanted to be outside, so I started a gardening and landscaping business. I live in an area where there's a lot of wealth, and people of that nature seem to want a gardener on a regular basis, so I'm grateful for that. But it's hard to work out in the elements, and you need tough clothing for the different elements, and you also need tough clothing so that it doesn't constantly rip or get holes. So anyway, I'm telling you all of this because I worked a lot for like the past 15 years. I also have been taking care of horses for one of my gardening clients every day, twice a day. And you also need tough clothing to work in a barn and do the true grunt work that comes along with care for horses. You need tough clothing. So for years, it seems like I wore very like work gear. And I realized there are many ways to be feminine. There are many internal ways, and it's really just a state of heart, a state of mind. I realize that it's not what you're wearing. But for me personally, I have an akin to pretty clothing, makeup, handbags, shoes. But I also grew up a tomboy and attracted to nature, hiking, sports, animals. And as an adult, I do the same thing, constant with nature, sports, hiking, not afraid to get my hands dirty and in the mud, literally. And but I also still love pretty things, and I own pretty things, but in the last maybe 12 to 15 years, I really haven't worn anything but very durable work type clothing. um, and this spread, when I come upon it in my self-care journal, will remind me to, hey, why don't you wear something that you love and change the way you feel internally? And for me personally, this works, and no judgment at all. Please, no judgment. Um, like I said, I have worn clothes that probably traditionally would have been said to be clothes for men for years. And there, I would have been upset if anyone had judged me. So, no judgment from me at all, no matter what you wear or look like or any of that. I am so open in all heart. But for years, I've felt this way personally about myself and want to sort of break out and start wearing some more feminine things. Trying to transition away from this career to helping people on YouTube with journaling, art journaling, junk journaling, this sort of nature, which I love. It's my passion. And hoping to start a community on YouTube or join the community that's already here. So, anyhow, if it works out, I'll be able to start wearing more feminine clothes and transition away from landscaping and gardening. Um, Sadly, I did have to give up my horse care job a few months back when my mom passed away, and I very much miss it and sort of regret doing it, but try not to have any regrets and understand that there's a timing for everything in life. But so anyway, I can't draw. I don't claim to draw, but I'm picking up tools and I'm freeing myself and I'm starting to draw. For years, I was a different person and more confined and didn't think I could draw. And I don't claim that I can draw, but I didn't think I could even draw to this level of whimsical drawing and painting. So my point is that you can too. And you can go farther than this with your skills if you want to, and perfect with more detail as you grow and learn. Or you may find that whimsy is all you want, and you're going to stop right there because that provides the joy that you're looking for. So, whatever it is. But anyway, my point is for years I was just a card maker. I shouldn't say just, I take that back, I'm sorry. But a card maker, but I didn't think I could draw, and I used stamps to create images, and then I colored them in or, used inks or whatever. But I'm breaking out of my comfort zone and starting to try to draw instead of stamp. Don't get me wrong. I love my stamps. I love my stencils, embossing folders. I love all those things. And I love playing with them and using them still. But I'm mixing it up and using both in this channel. And I still love playing with them. They bring me joy. I love the creations that they make. But I also love experimenting and trying to draw and paint myself and see what I can come up with. And that's bringing me joy. So don't be afraid. If I'm telling you that old cliche saying, if I can do it, you can do it. And I don't claim that this is good, but it's better than I ever thought I could do. I never thought I could even do this. So you can too. Really, you can. We're all born with it. We all have it inside of us. We just forget. We forget that we have it. We're taught things as we grow up, and our true nature gets squashed inside, and we forget all the talents that we have inside. We all truly have it. So I find if I just try to sit down and ground and free myself, and what really helps with that is breathing, deep breathing, at least 3 times. At least 6 seconds in, hold it for 6 seconds, release it for 6 seconds. Maybe look out the window or at an image that's beautiful to you if you don't have something pretty out your window. Look at an image on YouTube or something. There's so many channels of gorgeousness on there. Gorgeous music, gorgeous scenery. So if you're stuck somewhere where you don't have a window or something pretty to look at, hopefully you have a TV. If not, if you just have whatever, something near you that you love, just look at it and breathe. Ground yourself and take your troubles away. So here I'm attempting to draw some nail polish and some like rouge compacts, makeup brushes, mascara wand. If you know, I don't know what they call it in all parts of the world, but things we use to make ourselves feel a little bit more pretty. If we want to. Most days I mean I haven't worn makeup for years. But I would love to get back into it because I do just love that little gentle natural hint of color and just how it makes me feel inside. So I'm having a lot of fun flowing and drawing. And after I use my pencil, I go over it with a permanent marker. You can use a Sharpie, anything oil-based. Once this type of marker is dry, wait for it to be dry. Do a little smudge test. They don't take long to dry, it seems. Then you can introduce water, and the black ink will not run because it'll be waterproof. So I just go over the pencil, and once I'm done and happy with my marker and the marker is dry, I erase it like I did before on the dress. And I do this because it takes away the pencil lines. If you don't do this and you add water, it seals the pencil lines in and they cannot be erased later. It's okay to leave them there. It's really interesting to see like the stages of evolution of the piece of art. So sometimes I leave my pencil marks in, sometimes I take them out. But anyway, I've been taking them out lately. So now here's a piece of junk mail, and I'm going to cut the very top open. I think about it for a minute and decide to do just along the top edge right here. So slit that open, leave the rest of it glued shut. I take out the junk contents inside, set them aside. And here I'm using the old book pages that I showed you in the beginning of the video. And a glue stick, gluing down book pages all over the junk mail envelope. And when I used to watch junk journaling or art journaling, sometimes I would read on comments when I used to watch on other people's channels, because I used to work a lot and I never had time to create really. So I used to watch just for like solace and relaxation. I used to watch other people create at night. But sometimes I would read on the comments that people had trouble with glue sticks. And I think in my experience so far, it's not necessarily the brand. It could be though. It's the pressure you use when you apply the glue stick for one. For two, it's what you're using for materials. What are you gluing to? And three, you need to put it all over the piece. The substrate, meaning the piece you're gluing to, and on the piece itself that you're gluing down. Now, I don't always do this, glue both pieces, apply glue to both pieces, because I've kind of learned in my experience what needs it, when that's necessary and when it isn't. But if you ever find that it's lifting up for you later, it's one of these three things probably. It could be where you live. I live in a pretty steady climate, not a lot of humidity here this time of year. So it could in extreme cases be that, but I'd say most likely in most people's lives it's not. It's the amount you're putting on, the type of paper you're using, the pressure you're using, and if you ooze out the glue so that it is all over the inside. Does that make sense? I hope so. And if people know this, I'm so sorry. I'm sure you fast forwarded. But if you're new, I really want to include things like this for you in my videos here and going forward and backward, because when I was learning, so many people didn't say stuff like that. And now and then when I caught a glimpse of something like that, I was so grateful to learn those types of tips that saved me a lot of frustration and trial and error of different ways, which at the same time is really the way to learn. But when you have to buy a product and then another one and then another one because it's not the right one for what you're doing, man, that's no fun. No one likes that. And it's wasteful to the environment, wasteful to our wallets. So I like to help out with little tips. And they're just tips. I don't work for these companies at all. If they want to send me money, please do, but I know they won't. I'm just trying to be communal and give you these tips from my heart. So when the envelope is completely covered with book page, I decide that I'm done. And I don't love the words of this book. They're not words I would typically read. So A, that's why I put it upside down, and B, I'm going to end up covering it later. We'll do that later. But I fussy cut out the items we drew and painted together. So here's later. We're going to take a background stamp if you have one. It's not necessary. You could just take a pen and just draw little marks and lines right over it. You could take a paintbrush and just draw little lines or marks right over it. But if you have a stamp and you have these items, go for it. Or if you're inclined to pick them up at the store and give this a go, you just take a background stamp, stamp it on with embossing stamp ink, and then you sprinkle on embossing powder, and then you heat it up with a heat gun, and it produces this gorgeous metallic reflective image that's three-dimensional. Okay, so I didn't love my red rouge here. I didn't love the red. It's a blue journal. Something about it, I don't know, it was bothering me. I do love the color red, but in this case, it was bothering me. And so I decided to cover it with green and make it into more of like a green sort of eyeshadow, I guess. But I glued down the lipstick and all these other pieces. And I made a little pocket at the bottom there as well on these dyed papers I had made earlier in other videos. And then I slip it down into the envelope. So anyhow, if you don't have all those fancy embossing things, you can just paint with acrylic paints, like the little cheap ones that come in the little bottles at the craft store. You can use nicer paints. You can use house paint. It doesn't matter. Any cheap brush or nice brush, it doesn't matter. And just make little marks. Make little circles. Make little teardrops. Make little hash marks. Make little X's and O's. Make little swirls. Anything your heart desires. Just free yourself. But I felt like being fancy pants and pulled out my card materials, my card making materials. But yeah, so here I decided I wanted to adorn the spread a little bit more. And this is it's not a handbag or a purse or a wallet or shoes, but I decide I want some flowers. I just love flowers after all. So I just drew a little flower and watercolored and fussy cut it out. And I hear this is called a Dutch door, what I did to the flower. I've heard this on other videos on YouTube. To me, a Dutch door is a door in my home where half of it opens and half of it remains shut. And I absolutely love a Dutch door. The back of the envelope, the junk mail, is the stenciling we did earlier. So that's where I'm covering my red rouge and making it into green eyeshadow. Now I'm writing a little poetry from William Shakespeare that's going to remind me and prompt me that our bodies are our gardens and we are our own gardeners. And for me, it reminds me to tend to myself for self-care in this way, to make sure I don't just care for others, but I also take care of my own external body and do what makes me feel good. And I often don't. I often just take care of others or other things and don't take the time to groom myself or make myself feel a little bit prettier. So I would like to do that, and this spread will help me do so. It's something that I would like to do for self-care at this stage in my life. So if you don't have a scoreboard, this isn't the best or easiest way, but you can take a ruler and just bend up your paper to make sort of a fold in your paper. And the reason why I'm doing this is to make the little Dutch door. And then you apply glue just on, yeah, it did rip a little. That is the chance you take when you do it this way. You have to be gentle. The beauty of a scoreboard is I think it creates a line. It breaks the fibers in the paper, and that way it doesn't rip or tear. So anyways, you can do it this way with a ruler or any straight edge and just fold it over. And you can bone fold it like I just did, or use the back of your scissor handle or whatever. Apply glue just on that little edge, and then glue it down to the edge of the piece we're working on. And now it becomes what they say is a little Dutch door. And it opens and I can see the poetry on the inside. So here, I can't help myself, and I felt like the dress I made needed some fancy, it needed something fancy. I needed to celebrate her. I was really happy with her. Even if it's not that professional, I was super pleased with just the fact of the fun that I had while I was doing it and that I was freeing myself. So I decided to make a belly band, but I don't use it as a belly band. I actually end up using it as sort of a metaphorical stage curtain, if you will. I glue it down to the top of the page and in the background, because the dress ends up going on top of it to pop out the dress to make it look like it is in the foreground. And this piece ends up sort of looking like a curtain, if you will, on a stage, and give the piece the proper, just, beauty and altar that it deserves. I know it's not that great, but it's just how I'm feeling inside. And hey, celebrate yourself. Celebrate yourself. Don't judge. Don't say it's not good enough. Don't say it's not good. Love what you do, and I promise you, it'll make you a better person, a more happy person, a more loving person toward others. So here I had some trims, and I'm just giving it a cute little metaphorical petticoat or wings. I don't know. I'm just playing and having fun. I had a little paper flower and a little dried chamomile from my garden that I glued together. And here I took a little bit of a paper leaf that I had that I cut in half and made 2 leaves to glue on to the little flower. And when the piece is all done, yeah, I get a little messy with my glue. I'm learning tips and tricks with my glue, how to be neater with it. But I do get a little messy with it sometimes. I try to have a wet cloth nearby, like on my lap, to constantly wipe my fingers, things of this nature. But on tiny things, I sometimes still use my finger as a tool to spread the glue. if I feel it needs it. Not always. But here it is. Here's the little piece. And I decide I want to add a little ink to it. So, and here it needs to be cut right there so that the book can close. The signatures, the pages, they haven't been sewn in yet. We'll do that in the upcoming videos. So I'm going to cut that piece off just to make the book close more easily. Well, I guess I'm going to rip it. Use what you have. Well, so far I always have my hands. I hope to always have the use of my hands. So I had a little piece of scrap paper from the embossing we did earlier, and I use it to put inside the junk mail to use to journal on the back. So here I decided I want a little ink on the piece to pop it out. And I'm using a little piece of scrap paper to slip underneath so that I don't get ink where I do not want ink. I could have done this earlier, but hey, that's okay. Thank you so much. Bye.